Welcome to Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. I'm Peter Gross, co-host of the original Wild Kingdom with Marlon Perkins and Jim Fowler. You know, if there's one thing we've learned when filming Wild Kingdom, it's that nature can be harsh. Not all animals are strong and healthy enough to survive. In tonight's episode, we'll explore the relationship between predators and prey. Each plays an important role in keeping animal populations in check. The old and sickly animals are naturally weeded out, leaving the strong and healthy to produce the next generation. In fact, birds of prey like this owl are only successful about 50% of their attempts to catch food in the wild. This reality can seem harsh, but it's absolutely necessary to create that delicate yet natural balance of animals in the wild kingdom. So sit back and relax and enjoy Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Hello, welcome to Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom. We'll see plenty of action today because we're going to look into the lively subject of animal motion. Pierre, I think you better move right over there and join Jim. You know, the trouble with studying animal movement in the wild is that most of the time the animal is gone before you can get a good look. Only by capturing the action on motion picture film can we really study what goes on. This is a moviola, which we use in editing the film which you see on this program. We also use it to study animal movement. Now, animals move in order to eat, to play, to avoid their enemies, and for lots of other reasons. And they move in a great many different ways. Let me show you what I mean. Animals walk on legs long and short. They run gracefully and awkwardly. They climb in haste and at leisure. They fly with wings beating or gliding. They swim through the water and slide on the snow. With motion picture film, we can study the same action over and over again. We can also slow the action down, reverse it, stop it. And when we do this, we discover the real miracle of motion. Let me show you. The puma is a true cursorial animal, which means that he's well adapted for running. Even when he's strolling about, he's always ready to spring into action. In slow motion, we can see that he leaps and runs not merely with his legs, but with his entire body, flexing and extending his back to add length to his stride. But wait a minute. Let's go back and take that leap again. Watch now for the play of muscles and the perfect timing and coordination. The coyote is also a predator and also a cursorial animal. It's a pretty even contest and the dirt really flies. Both animals use their muscles to push themselves forward, but naturally they must have something to push against. Watch here. The coyote applies the brakes by setting his feet against the ground, then he pushes off in a new direction. And he's off and running. An animal's speed depends on the length and rate of his stride. And every stride begins with a backward push. This backward push is basic to all forms of locomotion. It's one of the laws of motion discovered by Sir Isaac Newton. And now Jim's ready to demonstrate this principle.
I hope so, Marlin. In order to jump forward, Pierre has to exert a backward push. And this should send the wagon across the table. So if you'll call him, I'll catch the wagon.
Come on, Pierre. Come on, Pierre. Good boy. To move forward, then, an animal must push backward. From this simple beginning, though, animals have developed amazingly different methods of locomotion, depending on what they push with and what they push against. Little Pierre, the chimpanzee, is pushing against the tabletop with his feet in order to move forward. But let's go over here and see what Jim has in the laboratory.
This is a red-tailed hawk, and although he can walk on the ground, his principal means of locomotion is flying. He exerts the backward push with his wings and pushes against the air. We can see that push against this green paper as he flies to the fist.
Yes, an animal's method of getting about depends largely on the element in which it spends most of its time. Although he's pretty good at climbing trees, a chimpanzee is basically a creature of the ground. The red-tailed hawk is a creature of the air. And of course we all know that the fish is a creature of the water. In general, fish achieve forward movement through sideward motion of the body and tail, while the fins balance and steer it through the water. This giant moray eel shows clearly how, by twisting its body from side to side, a fish pushes against the water to move ahead. Sharks use a sculling motion, moving their massive tails from side to side. Porpoises scull up and down. Of course, they're mammals, not fish. And the spiny porcupine fish uses its tail to fan its way through the water. Squids use jet propulsion, forcing out spurts of water to exert the backward push. Jellyfish push themselves about by contracting and expanding the jelly umbrella. Paddling is another way of moving through the water, and the sea turtle has developed efficient flippers for this purpose. The duck and other water birds have webbed feet that are equally useful for walking or paddling. Even a horse can paddle, instinctively moving his legs in water as he does on land. A beaver is a fine swimmer, but he's also a fighter, as this young puma has discovered, and as our slow-motion camera reveals. Water aids an animal's movement by supporting part of its weight and giving it something to push against. But what happens when an animal has nothing to push against? Little Pierre, member of the kindergarten class of the St. Louis Zoo Chimpanzee Show, is here to demonstrate.
For this experiment, I've greased the surface of this glass to make it slippery.
Don't be frightened now. We won't let you fall. Let's see if you can walk on that slippery surface. Whoa! Nope, you just can't get a solid footing there, can you? When I walk across the floor, I depend on friction between my feet and the floor to enable me to exert the backward push. But too much friction can be a problem.
It certainly can, and a snake is a good example of it. This is a gaboon viper from West Africa, and I don't think there's much doubt that this is one of the most deadly poisonous snakes in all the world.
They're plenty poisonous, all right, Jim. One bit me a few years ago.
Yes, and you're lucky to be alive. Since a snake has no legs, it has a great deal of trouble overcoming friction so that it can move about. We can see how it does this by putting the snake on a piece of glass and then viewing it from underneath with a mirror.
Across the bottom of the snake's body are horny plates of skin. These point backward and grip the ground, or this glass, and the snake uses its body muscles to pull itself forward and to turn. So a snake actually causes its skin to crawl. This is called caterpillar traction. Overcoming friction becomes a real problem for a very large snake, such as this 20-foot anaconda. This is a constrictor with very strong muscles which move the belly scales forward to grip the ground, then exert the backward push, as he's doing here against this log. This action occurs alternately at several points along its body, so the snake moves forward with wave-like motions.
In contrast, a sidewinder makes a looping movement and moves faster because usually only 2 points of its body are touching the ground.
Well, Jim, a snake will never set any speed records on land. So how do animals go about overcoming friction?
Well, the answer is simply that they grow legs to raise their body off the ground. In early land animals, like this salamander, the legs simply jut out from the animal's side, and he's barely able to push himself off the ground in order to walk. Between steps, his whole body rests on the ground. But in higher animal forms, they've developed much more complex leg structures. Here we have sort of a cross-section view of a snake, and of course it has no legs. Then a salamander with elementary legs. In more advanced reptiles, the legs still jut out horizontally from the sides, but they're stronger and they support the animal much better. In mammals and birds, the legs are entirely under the body. The various kinds of legs that animals have developed account for all sorts of variations in the way they move about. A turtle's legs are short but thick and strong to support the heavy weight. He walks almost on tiptoe in order to hold the shell off the ground. An alligator's legs stick out from the side, but they bend easily at the elbows and knees, giving him much better leverage. In this slow-motion study of a ratel, we can see the mobility an animal gains when even short legs are directly under the body. On longer legs, the jackal can cover more ground in fewer steps. He has the agility to turn on a dime and move in a different direction almost without breaking his pace. To make better time, he goes into a gallop. An ostrich, of course, has only 2 legs, but their great length give the bird a very long stride and make it a fast runner. Antelopes, such as these kudu, also rely on their legs to escape from predators. Running across the pan, this sable antelope kicks up a little dust cloud each time a sharp hoof bites into the earth to propel him forward. A giraffe takes advantage of long legs and a long neck. Let's stop one and see. Here at the end of the stride, all 4 legs are extended and all 4 feet are off the ground. The neck has been thrust forward, giving added force to the movement. At the midpoint of the stride, all 4 feet are again off the ground, and the neck is drawn back, ready for another forward thrust. An elephant has the biggest legs of all. They're thick and strong to support his enormous weight.
At the Alberta Game Farm in Canada, we had the opportunity to make other slow-motion studies of animals, including the world-famous traveler, the dromedary camel. The camel is a pacer. That means that the front leg and the rear leg on one side both move forward together. Now the 2 left legs move ahead and the feet touch the ground at the same time. And now again the 2 right legs move up. This movement produces the rolling effect that makes riding a camel an interesting experience. Now for a study in contrast, let's look at a doll sheep. He's a trotter. The legs on one side do not move in unison, but while one is moving forward, the other moves back. Now the right legs, moving towards one another, nearly meet under the body. When an animal is trotting, there is scarcely an instant when at least one foot is not touching the ground. But for real speed, an antelope breaks from the ground and adds flying leaps to his gallop. There's another way to cover ground, and the kangaroo must have been the inspiration for the sack race. Although this looks like an awkward way to travel, some kangaroos can set a pace of 25 miles an hour and keep it up for hours. In Africa, the spring hare moves in the same manner as the kangaroo, hopping as though his hind legs were wired together and using his tail for balance. But the simplest of all forms of locomotion is hitchhiking, as these baby possums have discovered. Hitchhiking is certainly an easy way to travel, but it's undependable. To avoid danger, an animal has to be able to go it alone. We've been talking about legs and how they vary from one animal to another, depending on the animal's size, where it lives, how it feeds, and its needs in attack and defense. Here's an animal that's developed a remarkable aid in climbing. He's a tree frog, and he has suction cups on his fingers and toes that make it easy for him not only to cling to the glass, but to actually climb right up. He even has less trouble climbing up a tree. This is just one example of the many fascinating adaptations of feet and hands that produce an endless variety of motion in the wild kingdom. Here's another tree dweller, but his adaptation for climbing is quite different. He's a three-toed sloth. All 4 feet are equipped with those giant claws which can dig into the bark or hook over a limb. Such claws would interfere with walking, but it's all right because the sloth lives out his life in the trees. In slow motion, a bear cub shows how he also uses claws in climbing up a tree, an activity he pursues to escape from his enemies, or search for honey, or sometimes just to take a nap. Whoops, looks like a long way down. The leopard is another good climber, but this one's ambitious to think that he could outclimb a vervet monkey. Slow motion reveals the mighty power that goes into the big cat's leap. But the monkey can scamper up a tree as easily as he can run across the ground. The leopard knows how to climb all right, but he also knows that the little critter can outmaneuver him. And there's safety for the monkey in the top branches that would break from the leopard's weight. Here's a woolly monkey, definitely not in slow motion. In climbing, he uses all 4 feet and his tail. He's a native of South America, and his prehensile tail is so well developed that often it's more useful to him than his feet. The African chameleon also has a prehensile tail, which extends his reach as he crosses from branch to branch in search of insects. And by the way, this is not slow motion photography. He just naturally moves in slow motion. Now watch this. This is a prehensile-tailed possum, one of the few animals in the world that can not only hang by its tail, but can even climb up its tail. The prehensile tail also helps the kinkajou. His remarkable tail is aptly called his 5th hand. The badger needs only 4 hands, or feet, all with sharp claws for digging. Many other animals dig down for food and shelter, but in earth-moving capacity, The badger's the champion. All birds, of course, have feet, but unlike most, the secretary bird is on his most of the time. He seldom leaves the ground. Parrots have the most remarkable feet of all birds. The first and fourth toes extend backward, permitting them to use their feet as hands in grasping branches as they move about, and also in holding on to their food. This handsome head belongs to Africa's martial eagle. In slow motion, he displays what is surely the most amazing adaptation of arms and legs in the wild kingdom, for the arms, or front legs of birds, have evolved into wings. On the upbeat of the wings, air slips between the feathers, but on the downbeat, the feathers overlap so that no air slips through. Thus, a bird exerts the backward push not against the land or water, but against air. So, in the air, in the water, and on land, the wild kingdom is kept alive through the miracle of motion. One of the great fascinations of the wild kingdom is that it's a world of many beauties. The amazing beauty of brilliant and subtle color, the balanced beauty of form and pattern blended in countless designs, the harmonious beauty of sound creating a natural symphony. Perhaps the greatest beauty of all is the visual symphony of animal motion in its many patterns. We've had the opportunity to see most of these patterns today, and perhaps now you'll agree with me that in the final analysis, it's the miracle of motion itself that brings to life the ultimate beauty we each find in the wild kingdom.
Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom.
Like what you saw? Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for more exclusive content. And visit our website at wildkingdom.com.